Hey guys, it's Kaylee. I am back with another What Sold from last week's video. I'm going to be going over my sales that are happening right now on eBay and Poshmark. We're just going to dive right in. So all of these sales happen between October 6th through the 12th. That's a Sunday through a Saturday. That is how the platforms calculate their weeks. So that is why I calculate my weeks that way. In total, it was a pretty decent week. I sold 267 items for a gross item sales of just over $8,000. My average item sale price was around $31, but better than some of the other weeks because my Poshmark average item sale price has started going back up again, which I'm very thankful for. On eBay, I sold 145 items. On Poshmark, I sold 122. My average item sale price on eBay was close to $39. That's the highest I've seen it in a while. I love trying to stay between 35 and 40 for my average sale price. It's how I know I'm getting the margins that I need. As usual, Poshmark did have a lower average item sale price because that's where we flush out a lot of our clearance stuff, but we do have some full price sales over there as well. That brought our average item sale price to around $21, which is much higher than it was those previous weeks. Let's dive into some of these individual sales. I have a lot to show you guys today. Some really cool style-based ones, also some bolos and lots of factor stacking. So let's dive in. All right, this very first one is a pickup that I got at one of the storage unit dives I did. I cannot remember exactly how much I paid for him, and for some reason we didn't put it in our custom label like we should have, but I do remember paying up for this quite a bit, knowing that it would probably sell for quite a bit of money. So this is a newer brand to me. It is called Rude. If you guys are just listening and not watching, that's spelled R-H-U-D-E. Pretty decent sell-through rate on this, not 100%, but the ones that we're selling for a lot. Had to make just an educated guess on pricing when I was picking this up, but I feel pretty confident in it. I would keep your eye out for this brand because a lot of these pieces, especially the hoodies where it's more substantial, is going to go for quite a bit of money. This surprisingly did sell decently quick. I listed this for $200 or best offer. I received an offer for $160. which I accepted. This one took about a month and a week to sell, which is really great for a higher priced item that does not have a 100% sell-through rate. Definitely keep your eye out for that brand. Next up, this is another bolo brand. This is a Y2K kind of vintage brand. It's called Copine. Depending on what you have, it goes for more or less. These ones were a very on-trend Y2K piece. You can see they have an exaggerated wide baggy leg, super goth, super Y2K. We included a ton of keywords here. And we listed this high at $125 or best offer. We received an offer for $112, which I went ahead and accepted. This one actually only took just a couple of weeks to sell. So also, again, very quick flip for a higher priced item. Usually higher priced items take several months to sell just because people aren't necessarily always willing to spend that much. So it's always nice when those flip very quickly. All right, next up, this is an item I have been sitting on for a while, not quite a year, but about 8 months. And this is a pair of Coach leather riding boots. When I initially looked these up, it was in the middle of winter. They had great comps. I think I probably priced them too high because they ended up sitting. They were new with tags, but I did pay up for these. I paid $20, so that means my $20 has been tied up for this entire year. If you are paying up for items, really consider that and try to always look for something with a great sell-through rate that's going to flip very quickly so you get your money back instead of doing what I did and sitting on it for a year. I think I just priced this a little bit too high in the beginning. I since dropped the price and it ended up selling for my dropped price of $91. So 20 into 91 a year later. Not bad, but I wish I wouldn't have had that money tied up that I could reinvest into other more on-trend things. Here's another pair of boots. I showed this in a recent thrift haul. I just got this at the bins. I really debated on whether to pick these up because the heels did have quite a bit of wear to them. You can see there's slight chunks missing out of them, but I remember these being a really rare style, and I was correct on that. These are called the Slim Pack Tall riding boots. They gave me very Handmaid's Tale vibes, so We actually put that in the title, equestrian as another keyword. At the bins, I probably paid about $4 for these with the weight of them. And even with all that distressing, they were a rare style. They did not have a 100% sell-through rate, so I listed mine slightly lower than everyone else, and they did move very quickly because I did that. So very happy with that, and happy with such a high price sale, given that these did have quite a bit of wear. With the wear and the fact that they did not have a 100% sell-through rate, I listed these at $75. Other people had theirs listed over $100. Mine actually sold the next day for my full asking price of $75. And again, this was something at the bins everyone was passing on. Imagine if I wouldn't have picked them up. So keep your eye out for specific kinds of sorrels, especially if they look vintage. Might be worth getting. Don't be scared if the comps are there on things that are flawed, because you can always significantly drop the price and get them to move quicker. This was another bins pickup. This is by the brand Blarney Woolen Mills. I'm not super familiar with this brand, but it was 100% cashmere and it was made in Scotland. I've said before, if you see cashmere wool made in a handful of countries I look for, like Ireland, Scotland's definitely one of them. Usually it's an indicator of quality. Anything that says Woolen Mills, I would definitely look up. This also had a very classic color scheme to it, navy blue with gold buttons. All of those things involved. I priced this one pretty high at $75, and it did sell for our full asking price. I listed this back in June, so it was like in the middle of summer when I listed this. It has just taken this time to come around to the season, but it did again sell for full asking price. Next up, this is a Y2K Bolo Nike Shox, especially in the men's department. Depending on what you have, can go for more or less. This one was not a super rare colorway or anything like that. You can see it has a little bit of wear, but they are Nike Shox. Pretty decent sell-through rates. We listed these for $65, and they did sell for our full asking price in just a few days after getting them listed. And it's really the men's ones that do really well. If you come across these, make sure to do the bin test with your shoes, because this area specifically dry rots a lot and separates from the shoe. So you just want to make sure that is not happening. This is one of my favorite shoe brands to find. I don't come across it very often. It's very overlooked. I think it's pronounced Vivaya. When they first started, they mimicked Rothy's with this knit material. Now, since they've become popular, they've branched out. They do other things like boots. Anytime I see this stretchy knit pattern in shoes, I'm always looking it up. Honestly, if you look at the tag, they don't look like anything special. They almost look like a cheaper brand that remakes higher end brands, but they actually are pretty expensive and have a great sell-through rate. These were called the Rachel Chelsea boots by Vivea. Listed these for $60. They sold on an offer to watcher for $51. These ones did take a couple of months to sell, but to be fair, we did list these in the middle of summer, and they're boots. This is absolutely a brand I would be looking for fall and winter. No surprise, Patagonia. This is one of their chinchilla pullover sweaters. Definitely one you want to be on the lookout for. Some of their wackier prints in the chinchillas go for crazy amounts of money. But this one I listed, with it being more plain, around $60. It did sell for our full asking price, and this one only took about a month to sell. You can see that we paid up for this one. We actually paid $18 to flip it into $60. This is a good example of something where you're investing quite a bit of money up front, but you know it's going to flip super quickly because the sell-through rate's there and you're going to get that money back and then some. So this is an example of where it's good to pay up for items if all of the data is there. This is a pair of Hoka One shoes. I wanted to show you guys this one because this is not traditional, not what you think of for Hoka Ones, but they're a pair of boots. I found with a lot of these athletic wear brands like Solomon, there's a couple other brands I can't think of right now, but they make boots. And the boots have an even greater sell-through rate than the sneakers. So keep your eye out for some of these athletic wear brands that are now putting out boots. We listed these for $55, and as you can see, there was quite a bit of wear to them. And they sold for our full asking price of $55. These did take several months to sell. All right, so this is the brand Zara. This is a brand not just myself, but most resellers have kind of steered away from. But I will say one great thing about Zara is they do have their style number on the tag, and you can also lens it. Depending on the style, they can sell very quickly and for a lot of money. What I look for are the blogger favorites. Again, that style number and lensing makes it super easy to do. Some of their pieces do go for a lot. It's just kind of a cumbersome brand because you do have to really search the style, figure out the sell-through rate of that particular style and size. But a lot of the times it pays off for me. I will say that their outerwear during this time of the year, they make very capsule wardrobe type outerwear like this piece right here. And those, generally speaking, do perform pretty well. I've noticed it's something that people look for every year. So this is an overcoat. It was a blogger favorite. We listed this for $60. It sold on an offer for $45 and we paid $15. So $15 into $45, really quick flip. Next up, I've told you guys we've been experimenting with this brand COS or COS. This is a men's wool vest. We listed it for $50. It sold on an offer to Watcher for $42. And this one took a couple of months to sell. I'm still figuring this one out. The men's pieces seem to have a lot more leeway than the women's stuff, meaning more sell-through rate, more ASP. So I'm still figuring it out, but I will say that the men's outerwear pieces are definitely something to look for. All right, this is a pretty nice pajamas brand called Pinecone Hill. I would definitely keep your eye out for those. I think they also make sheets and stuff like that. This one was very striking with the different prints. Pajamas in general, I tend not to look at unless there's an entire set. It's a very hard sale unless it's a designer brand without the whole set there. But whole sets we are looking up. So this ended up being a really good sale. We listed this for $50. It sold on an offer to Watcher for $42. Did take a few months to sell, but again, great flip for pajamas. All right, this was another one I went back and forth at the thrift store on whether to get or not because it was priced at $10, but I had a really good gut feeling about it. It had all just indicators of a good style-based piece. You could see some of the keywords that we used in here. It was a really cool Y2K suede leather bag. I knew that suede was trending. I knew this colorway was good. The shape of the bag overall, very trendy. Plus this one was like dead stock new with tags. Hush Puppies by no means is a brand I would look for, but all of the factors aligned with this one. I listed it for $40. It sold for our full asking price and it took less than a week to sell. It always surprises me and it feels really good when you've got those gut feelings at the thrift store and you're going back and forth on it and then it sells super quickly. Then it just gives that confirmation to feel more confident. This is a brand I've talked about pretty recently. It's one of my favorite men's brands to sell. Excellent sell-through rate. I'd pretty much pick up anything in this brand. It is Buck Mason. This was a men's sweater. It did have some pulled threads. We listed it for $45 because of that, and it did sell for our full asking price. This one also sold extremely quickly. Keep your eye out for Buck Mason. I think one of you said they make women's clothing now. The men's clothing for sure is where it's at. Next up, a pair of pants by Polo Ralph Lauren. Most of the men's Ralph Lauren and Polo Ralph Lauren pants have a good sell-through rate, so I usually look them up when I find it. This one's called the Polo Chino Stretch Pants. I listed this for $40, and it did sell for our full asking price. This one took 2 months to sell. I mentioned this brand several times. It is Reformation. I pick up anything in this brand, and it usually sells. This one did take several months to sell. It is a little crop top. Surprising it actually sold in this colder weather, but we listed this for $50. It did sell within a few months for an offer to Watcher of $42. Even in the middle of winter, I would all day long pick up Reformation because it just has such a great following. This was a vintage piece. This is a pair of men's Nike vintage windbreakers. I've noticed in the Y2K realm that vintage windbreakers and a lot of the different core athletic brands, Nike, Adidas, things like that, are performing really well. So this was an older label men's vintage Y2K Nike windbreaker pant. We listed this for $35. It did sell for our full asking price, and it actually sold the exact same day that we got it listed, despite there being a couple of flaws. Here's another Zara piece. Again, with Zara, trying to pick out very key pieces. We hardly pick up anything in Zara except for these key pieces that we vet through looking up style stuff. This was a puff sleeve embroidered midi dress, very cottage core details, just kind of has that it factor. We listed it for $40. It sold for our full asking price. This one actually only took 5 days to sell, which is crazy for Zara. All right, this is a category I would absolutely be looking for in literally any brand, and it is a 3D knit sweater. This one is by a pretty popular brand. It's Protege. The best ones are the real authentic Kuji sweaters, but pretty much any sweater that mimics a Kuji type sweater, I would definitely look at. I've been asked this question a lot recently, but I would never put a brand in your title that is not actually what it is, even if it's inspired by. It does not help you in search. It actually hinders your search, and it is keyword spamming. So putting 3D knit is enough to get your item to sell. So take a look, maybe do a comp search for 3D knit sweaters, see what brands mimic Kuji and which ones are doing well. I pick up literally any of them. They have a raised texture. This one was not as vibrant of colors. If you get the vibrant color ones in any brand, you're going to be able to get a lot higher ASP. This one had very muted colors, so I listed a little bit lower. I listed this one at $40. It did sell, and it took about 3 weeks to sell. I have sold 3D knit sweaters from like $40 up to about $150. If you get a Kuji one, which I've also sold, those go for hundreds of dollars. But all of the sweaters that have this raised texture, multicolor 3D knit, are an absolute bolo. So pick them up anytime you see them and make sure to put 3D knit in your title. All right, this is a Lilly Pulitzer item. Lilly Pulitzer tends to tank a little bit as we move into fall and winter because people are not picking up the things you typically think of with Lilly Pulitzer. They're bright multicolors. People are looking for more darker colors, more sweaters, things like that. But Lilly Pulitzer actually does put out sweaters. They put out wintry pieces, and they can perform well. This is their Luxe Letic line, which in my opinion has a pretty high sell-through rate in just about anything. I think it adds value. This is a little hooded tunic top, so pretty appropriate for the season. You can see it's a pretty muted color. I listed this for $40. It sold in a bundle for about, I think it was about 10% off, so between $35 and $40. And this one only took about a week and a half to sell. Be aware that Lilly Pulitzer, as well as other brands, put out things that are outside of their core niche, and they can also perform well. This is one of my favorite brands to get in plus sizes. It's definitely more bread and butter, but it can perform well. It's logo Lori Goldstein. This one was a more substantial piece in a really interesting log and look jacket. We listed this one for $30, and it sold for our full asking price in just a week of getting listed. If I could find 1 million of these and only sell these, that would be absolutely perfect because these are so easy to list. They're one of the few bra brands that you can still get that flip for really good money and super quickly. It is Honey Love. I've mentioned this brand multiple times to you guys. I pick up everything in this brand. If you come across the bigger sizes, those have like the sell-through rate's ridiculous. It's like 200 or 300%. But really any size in Honey Love I am getting right now. This one is a 2X, so definitely a quicker flip. Listed this pre-owned bra by Honey Love for $35. It sold for our full asking price, and it only took 2 weeks to sell. That's so awesome. Definitely keep your eye out for it. A lot of people are passing up bras, especially these comforting looking ones, because they don't look like anything special. Keep your eye out for it and check and see if it is Honey Love. Their logo is usually somewhere on the exterior of the item. Here's another brand I like getting in plus sizes, more bread and butter. It is Michael Kors. This is a 1X dark floral blazer. We did a lot of factor stacking here. We listed this for $30. It sold on and offered a watcher for $25, and this one only took about 3 weeks to sell. Here is another one. This is Old Navy. You guys know I love selling Old Navy. I'm surprised that the dresses are still performing well for me. I'm really keeping my eye on them, like I said, because dresses are just, in general, not going to have a high sell-through rate in the middle of winter, but surprisingly, I'm still selling some very summery pieces. This is an Old Navy size extra small Floral dress. I got it because it was midi length, it was tiered, it had very cottage core vibes. Even though it was a size extra small, still performed extremely well. Listed this one at $30, and it did sell for our full asking price, and surprisingly only took a month to sell. This is another style-based piece, Abercrombie & Fitch Y2K. Lots of great keywords with this. Any vintage Abercrombie & Fitch Y2K piece is performing pretty well, especially tops like this. I listed this one for $35. It sold for our full asking price, and it only took 2 weeks for this to sell. If you guys want to learn more about style-based pickups, what brands to look for, and what factors to look for in any brand, consider joining Reseller's Edge. We're talking about it all day long. You're going to feel very confident in knowing what to pick up. All right, next up, this is an Eileen Fisher item. I normally say stick to the plus size pieces in Eileen Fisher. However, during fall and winter, it can be a good time to experiment with some smaller sizes because they're more substantial pieces. This one is a sweater, white, size small, petite, so very small size. We listed it for $30, and it sold for our full asking price. This one took only a couple of weeks to sell also. So again, experiment with some smaller sizes in Eileen Fisher. If you've got some more substantial pieces, their sweaters definitely perform well in just about any size. And speaking of things still performing well, this is a pair of shorts. This brand Bird Dog still has a really excellent sell-through rate. Most shorts have gone away. Bird Dogs are still doing good, so I love picking up this brand. Here is their logo. These were a very specific style. We listed these for $30. They sold for full asking price and sold in just 3 days after being listed. Here's another Old Navy dress. Now this one did take several months to sell. I kind of don't understand it because I listed this in the middle of summer, which is when you would think a Hawaiian dress like this would sell, but it sold within the last week, which is really surprising. So it did take a few months to sell. This is Old Navy. It's a size extra large, tiered little Hawaiian dress. This one was only knee length. I listed it for $30. It did sell for our full asking price. So again, style-based pickup, lots of factor stacking. Next up, this is another one of my favorite brands to get in plus size pieces. It is Foxcroft, and I'll pretty much only get this brand in plus size pieces. It is a size 24W brown button-up shirt, which is pretty much what they're known for, are their button-up shirts. Listed this for $30. It sold on an offer to watcher for $25. It sold the same day, and we picked it up at the bins, so very low cost of goods. Here's another plus size bread and butter piece. This is Belle by Kim Gravel. This is a size 3X. This brand is definitely on the lower end of the plus size pieces I like to pick up. However, this had velvet burnout to it, so that was the main reason that I wanted to get it. Plus, it was a size 3X. I've mentioned before, but 3X is a really excellent size and adds a lot of value in plus size pieces. This one I listed at $25. It sold on an offer to watcher for $21, and it only took a couple of weeks to sell. This is another bins pickup, another style-based / factor stacking piece. This is a J. Crew men's piece. The only reason I got this one was because this is a thermal men's shirt, and the thermal waffle knit men's shirts, honestly, almost all of the mall brands perform well. J. Crew, Banana Republic, even Gap. It's just something that I've gotten every single year, and it performs well for me. I picked this one up by J. Crew. I listed it for $25. It sold on an offer to watcher for $21, and it actually only took 4 days to sell. These are more bread and butter prices, but they're flipping very quickly. I like to call them padding sales, and they really help keep everything afloat, and they really do add up. All right, last one on eBay before we dive into some of the higher price Poshmark sales. We sold this very high designer piece by Brunello Cucinelli. If you guys ever come across Brunello Cucinelli, I would definitely consider getting it. Their sell-through rate is actually pretty terrible, in blazers at least. Very low sell-through rate, but the ones that are selling for a lot. They typically sit until you find the right buyer, but when they sell for a lot. So is it worth getting? I think so. This one was actually a consignment piece for us. We are not accepting consignment. It's just not something that we're doing, but we're testing it out with one of our wholesalers just to see how it goes, because they've had some higher end pieces and it's a win-win situation for both of us. So this was one of those pieces. We listed this for $400 and someone actually pretty quickly, I was surprised at how quickly this happened, sent us an offer for $340, which we went ahead and accepted. So again, a consignment piece. I did not pay anything for this item, but I am going to be splitting profits for this consignment piece. And honestly, it's been fun to just test out consignment. It's not something we've done before, and it does have me thinking on higher end pieces. This one we listed, and it only took 3 weeks for us to get the offer and for the item to sell. Moving on to the Poshmark sales, like I said, even though we did have a generally low ASP on Poshmark, we did have some higher price sales. I'm going to share those with you today. This is the brand Haflinger, well known for their slippers. You can come across them at the bins pretty often, and I usually pick them up. Pretty decent sell-through rate. Slippers in general are going to be performing pretty well, so keep your eye out for them. A lot of people pass on them in the shoe wear section, but they do have a lot of really great bolo brands and slippers. This would definitely be one of them. This one sold for $45. All right, this was another interesting one. This is a Y2K Slipknot shirt. Definitely any kind of Y2K band shirt I'm looking up. Decent comps on Slipknot shirts. So the thing with this was it had a DIY cutoff sleeve. So it was altered essentially. We decided to go ahead and list this as a women's shirt, and I wasn't sure how that was going to go, but it actually went really well. Better than I think it would have been if we listed this in the men's department. It actually ended up selling very quickly after getting it listed for an offer of $41. If you have something that would be good if the whole thing were there, but there's maybe a DIY cutoff, consider putting it in a different category and see how it goes. But I have noticed buyers looking for vintage band shirts are not deterred by a cutoff sleeve or something like that. Just make sure to note it in your title. All right, here is another sweater. This is just another example of a nice material made in Scotland. This is not a brand I know of, Johnstons of Elgin, but it is 100% cashmere and it was made in Scotland. Women's pink cashmere sweater. This sold for an offer of $76. So lots of value when you've got wool or cashmere made in Ireland or Scotland. All right, this is a Banana Republic vintage men's jacket. When they first started, they were known for their safari looking pieces. Generally, the vintage ones will actually say safari. You can see this one says travel and safari. And I did know that their vintage pieces that had a safari look to it can perform well. I picked up this men's vintage military jacket. I think I paid $6.99 for it. There were many spots throughout this jacket from age. I just made sure to note it and list a little bit lower because of that. I think I originally listed this at $65. Someone sent me an offer very quickly for $51, which I accepted. And that just goes to show you something with flaws, if there's a good enough following, it can be pulled through. Banana Republic safari stuff, vintage, definitely something to look for. All right, I wanted to show this dress because it did sell after a couple months of being listed, but everybody was really interested when they saw this in a video. This is just the brand Roz and Ali, not a brand I would memorize at all. It's just a modern brand. However, the style of this one, again, this is where knowing the factors and the different aesthetics can really help you to pull through some sales that everyone else is passing on, and they don't always have to be bread and butter prices either. We sold this dress for $40. I think I had it listed for $50 on Poshmark, and it just had everything you're looking for in the fairy aesthetic. So it has the dark floral, dainty ruffled details, longer length, just lots of stuff going into this. We do have deep dives on fairy core, whimsy goth, lots of stuff like that in Reseller's Edge if you guys are interested. But this just really screamed on trend to me. And like I said, it's not always bread and butter prices either. This sold for $40, which is an excellent sale for a brand everybody's passing on. Do not pass up on the belt section. This is Ralph Lauren. Definitely, if you find Ralph Lauren men's or women's belts, I would look into them. This one's a pretty plain belt. I did not expect this one to sell so quickly, but I'm glad it did. And it is just a women's pretty plain belt. I got a bunch of belts for $2 at a recent thrift store. This one sold so quickly at our full asking price of $40. I love when smaller things sell for more than like a coat because they're so easy to list. So this belt sold for $40. You can see some of the keywords we used. Also, old money with Ralph Lauren is definitely a good one to think about, but happy with the belt sales. We've been selling a lot of belts. This is another bread and butter plus size pickup. This is not a brand I get all the time, but it was 3X. It was linen, again with the 3X. More substantial piece. This one we had listed for $35 and we accepted an offer of $30. Plus sizes are really helping with my bread and butter sales. This is the brand Lauren Ralph Lauren in tops. I usually only get this brand in plus sizes. However, this one's a size large. I make exceptions when there are certain themes. So if it's super Western, super equestrian, I will make exceptions on the size. So this was definitely one of those cases. You can see it's got a belt print to it. Very equestrian vibe. So I picked this one up. It sold on an offer for $33. You can see we used that old money keyword with this as well. All right, this is Berkey's by Birkenstocks, and I just wanted to share this because a lot of people don't know that Birkenstocks has different lines and different brands. Berkey's is one of those. A lot of people think that this is like fake Birkenstocks, but it's actually by Birkenstock. So I just wanted to show you guys this. Berkey's, they're a pair of Camden Boston clogs. They sold for $40. This is a very under the radar brand that a lot of people pass on. It is Planet by Lauren G. There are a couple brands that have the word planet in it that look very similar to this, but they are not the bolo, so keep that in mind. Planet by Lauren G typically is very login look. It's usually like a very neutral color. You can see this one's just a plain black dress. It doesn't always have a 100% sell-through rate, but in my experience, it has a very high ASP and it tends to sell very quickly for me, but I also price competitively. This one sold on an offer for $55. It was a plain black oversized login look maxi dress. This one is an unbranded sweater. However, it is 100% cashmere, made in Italy, size large, and it is a navy blue. Navy blue, very trendy. We sold this on an offer for $42. Again, that was without any brand at all. So just factor stacking, $42. And last one is another Ralph Lauren item. This is the Ralph Lauren Black Label. So this is the label to look for if you're looking for the Black Label. This one was a really nice jacket. Wool cashmere, had a lot going for it. Unfortunately, there was a tear on the collar, so I had to really factor that in with our pricing. It ended up selling on an offer for $70. Had it not had that, I definitely think I could have gotten closer to maybe like $125, $150, something like that. But Black Label Ralph Lauren is absolutely something that you guys want to look for. So that's it for what sold last week. I hope that you guys enjoyed watching. If you're not already and you would like to be, consider subscribing down below. If you hit the bell and then you hit all, you'll be notified every single time I post a video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!